They call her the greatest actress of her generation. Yet when Meryl Streep speaks about the art of cinema, her words carry the humility of a lifelong student. She doesn't talk about trophies or red carpets. She talks about silence, about gestures so small they could be missed, about the fragile truths that live in the pause before a word is spoken. For her, acting has never been about pretending. It has been about revealing. And the films that shaped her? They are not blockbusters or glittering spectacles. They are quiet, haunting stories that taught her how to listen, how to honor the invisible, how to find universality in the most ordinary lives. Tonight, we uncover the 6 films that didn't just inspire Meryl Streep's craft. They taught her how to be human on screen. She has been called a chameleon, a master of transformation, an actress who can disappear into anyone from a tormented mother to a world leader. But when Meryl Streep speaks about her craft, she strips away the mystique. Acting is not about being someone different, she once said. It's about finding the similarity in what is apparently different, then finding myself in there. For her, cinema has never been about the glitter of fame or the weight of trophies. It has been about truth, the kind of truth that lives between words, in silence, in the smallest gesture of a hand, or the fleeting shadow across a face. Streep believes that performance is not a performance at all, but an act of empathy. To become a mirror that reflects the world back to itself. She listens more than she speaks, absorbs more than she projects, allowing the character to breathe through her rather than bending it to her will. To Streep, greatness in acting does not come from technical perfection, but from surrender. The willingness to be vulnerable, to let the audience see what is fragile and unfinished. In her philosophy, cinema's highest purpose is not spectacle, it is recognition. It is the moment when one soul quietly meets another across the dark of the theater. Ingmar Bergman's Persona is a film that unsettles as much as it enlightens. The story is disarmingly simple. An actress, struck mute in the middle of a performance, retreats to a seaside cottage where a nurse is assigned to care for her. What follows is not a conventional narrative, but a psychological duel where silence becomes the loudest voice. 2 women, one speaking endlessly, the other refusing to speak at all, begin to blur into each other. Faces merging, identities dissolving. For Meryl Streep, watching Bibi Andersson and Liv Ullmann inhabit this fragile space was nothing short of a revelation. She discovered that acting could be just as much about what is withheld as what is delivered. A pause, a glance, a breath, these could convey entire novels. Silence, she realized, is not emptiness, but presence. It can be the most powerful tool an actor possesses. This lesson became a cornerstone of Streep's own performances. In The Hours, she allowed her character's grief to hang unspoken, filling the screen with a quiet devastation. In The Iron Lady, her Margaret Thatcher was defined not only by speeches, but by the weight of silence behind closed doors. For Streep, Persona taught a truth she would carry throughout her career. Acting is less about expression, more about impression, the art of receiving, absorbing, and reflecting humanity back to the world. Vittorio De Sica's Umberto D is one of the quietest films ever made, yet it carries the weight of an epic. The plot could not be simpler. An elderly pensioner, unable to pay his rent, faces eviction from his small Rome apartment. His only companion is a little dog, the one creature that gives him a reason to endure. Nothing extraordinary happens. No grand twists, no heroic battles. just the slow accumulation of small humiliations, each one eroding dignity like drops of water wearing away stone. For Meryl Streep, seeing Carlo Battisti's performance was like being handed a mirror to the human soul. She understood that great acting is not always found in dramatic outbursts, but in the tremor of a hand, the hesitation before a word, the struggle to maintain pride when everything is being stripped away. This was acting as empathy, bearing witness to lives the world prefers to ignore. That empathy became central to Streep's own work. In Kramer versus Kramer, she gave voice to a mother's society condemned without listening. In Silkwood, she made visible the courage of a working-class woman others dismissed. From Umberto D, she learned that cinema's deepest responsibility is to honor the unseen, to give weight to those who seem small in the eyes of history. Umberto D taught her that acting is ultimately about compassion, lending your voice to those who have been silenced by circumstance or time. Chantal Akerman's Jeanne Dielman is often described as 3.5 hours of cooking, cleaning, and silence. Yet for those willing to watch, it becomes one of cinema's most unsettling revelations. The story follows a widowed housewife who performs her daily routine with mechanical precision, peeling potatoes, scrubbing pots, preparing meals, and quietly receiving male clients to support her son. At first, nothing seems to happen. Then, slowly, the cracks appear. An overcooked dinner, a forgotten task, a silence stretched too long. Until the weight of routine reveals an entire inner world collapsing. For Meryl Streep, watching Delphine Seyrig embody Jeanne with such obsessive detail was a lesson in the radical power of ordinary life. She realized that truth on screen does not require spectacle. A woman buttering bread could carry as much drama as a king waging war, if it was done with absolute honesty. This understanding would echo in her own work. In Kramer versus Kramer, she found devastating power in the smallest gestures of a mother torn between love and independence. In Silkwood, she made every cigarette, every weary glance, speak volumes about working-class struggle. Streep carried with her the conviction that cinema must dignify the invisible, giving weight to experiences often dismissed as mundane. Jeanne Dielman showed her that every gesture contains a universe, and that the most profound dramas often unfold in kitchens and bedrooms, not just in courts or battlefields. Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game looks at first like a comedy of manners. Aristocrats gathering at a country estate, their servants scurrying behind them, and a tangle of romantic intrigues during a weekend hunting party. But beneath the elegance lies something sharper, a portrait of a society unraveling, where every character, whether wealthy aviator or kitchen maid, carries equal weight in the great dance of human folly. For Meryl Streep, discovering Renoir's film was like discovering the blueprint of ensemble acting. The genius was not in any single performance, but in the way the camera moved democratically, giving every person in the frame their humanity. No star was elevated above another. Everyone had their reasons. Everyone had their place. This philosophy became central to Streep's own career. In The Hours, she played within a tapestry of 3 women, never overshadowing Julianne Moore or Nicole Kidman, but weaving her grief into the collective rhythm. In The Post, she anchored the story while still leaving space for every supporting voice. Renoir taught her that true greatness in acting is not stealing the scene, but giving the scene away, creating a space where others can shine. The Rules of the Game showed her that cinema is, at its core, a collective art form. Great acting does not dominate, it elevates. And real brilliance lies in generosity, in the willingness to step back so that the story, and those within it, can breathe. Yasujiro Ozu's Tokyo Story moves with the quiet inevitability of time itself. The plot is heartbreakingly simple. An elderly couple travels from their small coastal village to visit their grown children in Tokyo, only to discover that they have become little more than unwelcome guests in their busy modern lives. Polite words are exchanged, smiles are forced, but beneath every interaction lies the ache of distance, between generations, between past and present, between love remembered and love neglected. For Meryl Streep, encountering this film was like learning a new language of emotion. Ozu taught her that the deepest truths are often spoken in silence, in the space between phrases, in the resigned glance of a parent who realizes they have been left behind. His camera lingered low, at the height of someone seated on a tatami mat, forcing viewers to look not down on age, but directly into its face with reverence. This perspective reshaped how Streep approached her later roles. In The Hours, she allowed grief to hang unspoken, devastating in its quiet. In The Post, she embraced age and authority without concealing its fragility. Rather than resist time, she let it etch itself into her performances, showing that dignity comes not from denying age, but from inhabiting it fully. Tokyo Story revealed to her that acting is not about preserving youth. It is about honoring time itself, accepting loss, cherishing love, and letting the silences between words tell the story that dialogue never can. Vittorio De Sica's Bicycle Thieves is perhaps the purest expression of Italian neorealism, a story so stripped of ornament that it becomes universal. The premise is stark. A poor man in post-war Rome finally secures a job that requires a bicycle. When the bicycle is stolen, he and his young son spend a long, desperate day combing the city in search of it. Each dead end chips away at their hope. Each disappointment erodes a little more of their dignity. For Meryl Streep, this film was a revelation. What struck her was not polished technique, but raw truth. De Sica cast non-professional actors, people who were not pretending to be poor. They were living it. Their authenticity seeped into every frame, making the simplest scenes, walking down a street, eating a humble meal, feel monumental. She realized that acting at its core was not about showing skill, but about being real enough to disappear, so that the audience no longer saw an actor, only a life unfolding. This lesson grounded Streep's own performances. In Kramer vs. Kramer, she drew from ordinary gestures to express extraordinary pain. In Silkwood, she embodied the quiet heroism of working people fighting to be heard. Whenever she felt distant from her craft, she returned in memory to Bicycle Thieves, a reminder that truth itself was enough. Bicycle Thieves taught her that cinema's power lies not in spectacle, but in recognition. The moment when a story about one man and his son becomes a story about us all. 6 films. None of them box office giants, none filled with dazzling effects or Hollywood glitter. Yet for Meryl Streep, they became the foundation of everything she would later bring to the screen. Persona taught her the eloquence of silence. Umberto D revealed the nobility in ordinary struggle. Jeanne Dielman uncovered universes in the smallest gestures. The rules of the game showed her the generosity of ensemble work. Tokyo Story illuminated the quiet devastations of time and family, and Bicycle Thieves reminded her that truth, stripped bare of artifice, is the only currency that matters. Together, these films shaped not only her artistry, but her humanity. They taught her that acting is not about vanishing into costumes or accents. It is about listening, about empathy, about allowing one fragile soul to connect with another in the darkness of a theater. That is why her performances still resonate, because they do not ask us to admire her. They ask us to recognize ourselves. So, what about you? Which film changed the way you see the world? Which story stayed with you long after the credits rolled? Share your thoughts below, and let us keep alive the reminder that cinema, at its best, is not escape. It is memory, compassion, and truth.